Good afternoon, everyone, on this brisk and cold afternoon up here in North Texas. My name is Paula McCain, and I am a recovery business advisor with the North Central Texas Small Business Development Center. Don't everyone realize it? Today is National Tortilla Chip Day. Perfect day, tortillas, salsa, chili. Go for it. The SBDC is a leading provider of assistance for small businesses. We are grant funded, and because of that, we can offer our services, our resources, such as today's webinars, to you at no cost. Today's webinar is titled HR Solutions, Recruit and Retain, and is being presented by CJ Pettit. If you would please put your questions in the chat room, and CJ will get to them throughout her presentation. Welcome, CJ. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much. I am so happy to be presenting this information because it is the #1 question that I get from small businesses. In fact, just left and right, advisors and small businesses are all asking the same question. How do I hire, in the age of COVID? And I'm here to tell you that how you hired in 2019, 2020, it is completely different. It's a whole new ball game. We don't know post-COVID if it's going to change back or not. But what I'm hearing from small businesses is that the tools that they used to use to recruit, like Indeed or ZipRecruiter, that they're not having any luck before. Before, that's all they relied on. It was easy peasy, but they're completely stumped as to what to do because the tools that they used to rely on don't work anymore. So I'm so thrilled to be presenting this for the North Central Texas SBDC. I just want to say and throw this out there that I'm not just a small business owner. I am a client, and I have an amazing advisor who has guided me all along my journey. I don't give her name out anymore because she got so popular that I couldn't get on her calendar. So I said, she's an amazing advisor, but she's a secret, okay? And I'm in San Antonio, so y'all have amazing advisors in your area. Take advantage of it. The way that you're going to take advantage of it is, I don't know if you can see in the upper right-hand corner of the slide, the link to your SBDC. The world waits you in this link. And not only will you be able to find contact information and get help, but you're going to find links to this presentation. And also, you're going to find access to some helpful information handouts that I'm also going to be providing. So take advantage of this free service. It's paid for with your tax dollars. And so I just want to say, I am not just a presenter. I am a client, and I love it. I would not have it any other way. So let's talk about what we're going to talk about. How do you find the right person for the job? Because a lot of small businesses are on a tight budget, and trying to go out and pay $300 to Monster, $300 to Indeed is it's overwhelming your budget, especially because you're not getting the results that you used to get from those tools. So we're going to talk about how do you recruit in today's environment. I'm going to take you kind of step by step through the hiring process. And then I'm going to talk about some legal pitfalls that you're going to want to avoid. So let's get started. We've got a lot of information to cover. But first about me. I actually have been in HR for 20 years. I started my career with Texas Workforce Commission. So I kind of know how things work from the inside out. Graduate of OU, go Sooners. I have my master's from St. Mary's, and I'm a senior HR certified professional. So I just want to say that that I am continually on the hunt for solutions that work for you. My disclaimer, and this is not a mistake, I'm creative. I have to have at least one sideways slide. My disclaimer is I'm not an attorney, so I can't give legal advice. I can just give you practical solutions that I've learned and that I've seen work for other clients. And we're going to talk about some secret sauce. We're going to talk about where your best candidates are hiring and how you need to appeal to them in 2022. Not just 2019 is gone. It may never come back, and how we go about recruiting may never be the same again. So we're going to talk about what tools you can use now, right, to get some traction on your hiring and your retention. Here's the hiring process. First, you source, meaning you find your applicants. Where are they hiding? You may test them. You may or may not. Testing is like, for example, a reading test, or testing someone to see how good they are on Word or Excel. Those are the kinds of pre-employment tests that I'm talking about. Then you make a job offer. Then you do your checks, and by checks I mean your background checks and other checks that you have to do to make sure you're hiring the right person, like reference checks and stuff like that. And then you do have obligations to report your new hires. So we're going to talk about this process, but as we're going through this, we're going to talk about how each one of these parts of the process work in 2021. So let's talk about step one. The most important thing of getting traction on hiring is to have a good job description. That job description represents you as a business. And if your job description or your job ad looks horrible, you are going to not look good as a business. So you need to be professional in what you present. And so what I'm going to take you to is a way for you to write job descriptions without having to reinvent the wheel. The Department of Labor has put together a website called ONET. And what you do is you go over to the search box and you just search for whatever job that you're hiring for. Let's say you're just looking for an administrative assistant, okay? You type it in and a plethora of different types of administrative jobs become linked to you. So let's click on the first one. Let's click on the second one, the executive secretaries and executive administrative assistants. Let's do that. So you click on the link and voila, you have got what you need for a job description. What I like to do, and by the way, this link again is provided in the presentation. So all you got to do is click on it and you'll go straight here. Okay, so don't think that you have to memorize this. This is my favorite way of using this website. I go to this tab called Details. And then I go over here to where it says XLS and I download it to Excel. And then I open the file. It will open for me here. And it gives me a list of different job duties. And what I can do is I can pick through, instead of reinventing the wheel on my job description, what I can do is just go in and I can go in, and I'm hoping y'all can see this. If you can't, Lori or Paula, let me know. But I'm gonna make this a lot bigger so you can see it. Here you go. So why reinvent the wheel? You've got a list of all the different core job duties that most administrative or executive assistants do. And you can pick through and figure out which ones work for you. You are welcome to copy and paste. This is not proprietary information by any means. It's there to serve you. And so you can search for whatever data you like. Let's say, I don't know, janitor. You can actually get the job description for janitor. Here's what I also like. If you scroll down to the bottom of the first page, remember last time we clicked on details and downloaded in the Excel file, kind of cheat sheet. If you scroll down, you can actually get some good compensation data going. So let's say that we're in the state of Texas, so we know that. So you know, you can say, okay, what should I be paying? Because that's a big part of attracting your candidates, is what exactly should you be paying? And if you look, this gives you the different areas, metro areas in Texas, and it gives you the annual income. You can also do hourly, right? And so in the state of Texas, a janitor might start out, this 10% start out at $8.82. The average rate, though, for a janitor is $12.17. So if you're trying to hire a janitor for $10 an hour and you're not having any success, I wonder why, right? And so take a look at this website, not only for your job descriptions, but for how much that you should be budgeting to pay for your employees. Wages have gone up. I mean, there's just no question about it. Wages have gone up. And so you're going to have to be really smart and say, okay, how much is turnover costing me? How much is our business opportunities costing me? Because if you have to turn down contracts because you're not paying enough and you can't get the workers you need to perform the contract, what good is it, right? And so use this to learn how much to pay your employees, and then when you go after a contract, bake that cost into your pricing, right? So I'm going to say this very bluntly. Don't go cheap. It will cost you so much more in the long run if you try and go cheap and go, well, I'm going to pay somebody $9 an hour, $10 an hour, when everybody else is paying $12, right? So that may be the number one reason why you're struggling to hire, is you may not be paying enough. There's another website that you can go to. This is called SHRM. It's the National HR Association. And you can come over here and search for job descriptions. Some of them you have to be a member, have a paid membership for, but not all of them. So if you're struggling to find a job description on ONET, maybe go over to SHRM and fish around and see if you can get some free job descriptions or free wage information, and that might serve your purpose as well. Are y'all with me? Do we have any questions so far? Because we've already gone over a lot of information. Paula, do we have any questions so far? Are we going?
Well, let me see. I have a question.
Okay, you shoot, girl.
Okay. Look, I was just doing a search for salaries for a specific job title. Um, if okay, in a job title like truck driver, is there a need to be more specific with the type of truck that you're using with the ONET
Uh,
online? I was using Glassdoor, but this looks like a much better resource.
It does matter. And what you might want to do is be specific about the type of truck driver, because there's a huge difference between a local delivery driver and an over the road driver. And I'm not sure
Mhm.
if ONET distinguishes, but they probably do. And I'm going to tell you
Mhm.
that I'm not as big of a fan of either Glassdoor or salary.com. I think salary.com sometimes inflates wages a little bit. And so I would rather go to some place like ONET, because ONET's provided by
Mhm.
the Department of Labor. It's not a private
Oh,
company
good.
trying to sell you anything. Does that make sense? And so
Yes, it
you
does.
should be able to distinguish between the type of driver that you're looking for on ONET. And if you
Okay.
can't, then maybe try some other. Here's what I don't want you to do. What I don't want you to do is go to, I'm going to share another, I'm going to share, let me see if I can do this. I'm going to share another, I'm going to share a file here. See if this works. Let me see here. I'm gonna see if I can share a job description. I'm going to read this job description to you. I'll just keep this up. I'll keep my PowerPoint up and I'm going to read this job description to you. And I want you to tell me what you think is wrong. Okay, so put this in the chat. Okay. This is a customer service job that I pulled off the internet. And this is what it says. Requirements: have developed a highly developed sense of integrity and commitment, has thick skin, and has a friendly attitude. Below that, it says that you have to have 1 year of experience with online help desk. And then it goes into more responsibilities, talking about balancing between company policy and customer benefit. And then the very end of it talks about what the job will do. So let's talk about what should a good job description look like. And so the job description should start out with a summary, 1 or 2 sentences about what the job does, then the job duties. And the Department of Labor, the EEOC, considers the job duties that are listed first to be the essential functions, meaning that the functions of the job that you absolutely have to have, they go at the top of the list of the job duties. You don't bury them in the bottom. Keep your requirements 100% job relevant. What does it mean to be thick skinned? What exactly does that mean? Right? How subjective is that? And what else? Mixing and matching, like the requirements, then the job, then a job summary, and then responsibilities. If what happens is, right, you need to take abuse. Good comment. I'm so glad I'm seeing the comments. Right? So if you read this crummy job description that I downloaded off the internet, I wish I could share it with you, but I'll send it. I'm going to send all this material over. It's going to end so that you can get it from your advisor. So not to worry. All my cheat sheets and everything, it's going to be included with a copy of the slide deck that you can get from your advisor. So don't worry about that. But here's the thing is that this job description strikes me as being unprofessional, which makes me think that the company itself is unprofessional. And I am not going to want to go work for this company. And so if you don't start out with a good professional job description, people are going to make that impression on your company, not just your job description, but on you. What's it like to work for you, and what's this job is about? They're going to be turned off and they're going to go to the next job. 100% job relevant. What that means is that if I'm hiring a janitor, am I going to require a college degree? The answer is no. Am I going to require a high school diploma? Probably the answer is no. And so I've heard this saying, and I hate to use this saying, but sometimes owners have champagne taste on a beer budget. I hate to put it that way. But when they go to write their requirements, they just go nuts with it. They're like, we want a college degree. We want somebody with thick skin. We want somebody who can balance between company policy and customer benefit on their own without any instruction. Okay, so what happens is that how you write your job description will determine how you write your job ad and the impression that you make on your potential candidate. And it all starts with the job description. So here's how it flows is you do a summary, you do the duties, you do the requirements, and then you do any physical demands. And a quick note to self is that OSHA doesn't like to see anyone lifting over 50 pounds by themselves. So if you put in physical demands that somebody has to regularly lift 75-pound bags of soil or whatever, then you're already going to be with OSHA. So 50 pounds is the limit that OSHA likes to see anybody lift without assistance, without help. Okay. So you've got your KSAs right here, and this is how your job description should flow. And so once you get your job description ready, you need to go ahead and get it out there. And how do you do that? Because the Department of Labor also wants you to track your applicants. They want to know who's applied, where they came from, and what you did with them. That is a huge pain in the tuchus. Believe you me, I come from the old school days where we had to keep track of it in Excel, and it was a nightmare. So here are some free sources for you that will do this for you. My favorite is Smart Recruiters. It's free. It is easy to use. It's a one-stop shop. In fact, I want to try and see if I can back out of this, and let me see if I can back out of this and then share my screen to where I can show you Smart Recruiters, what it looks like. So here's Smart Recruiters. And what I like about What I like about Smart Recruiters is that, well, number one, it's free. And as a small business owner, I like anything free, right? But what it is that you set up an account for your company and you post your job descriptions on in Smart Recruiters, and it gives you a tiny little URL. And you can take that URL and put it anywhere you want. And it all leads back to one-stop shop, one place. And what I like to do is I like to take that URL and put it in different places that I think are going to work and see what kind of results I get, because I can log into Smart Recruiters and see what candidates are applying and if they're any good or not. In fact, in Smart Recruiters, you can rank your applicants from, like, I think it's 1 to 5, right? And so what I do is I go through and I rank the candidates that have applied, and the candidates that I rank like a 4 or a 5, those are the ones that I'm going to take the time to interview. Does that make sense? And so I'm not wasting my time talking to people who are in no wise qualified for the job that I'm hiring for. And just as importantly, I don't want to hire someone who's only worked at their jobs for 1 month at a time, 1 month, 2 months, 6 months, because how long are they going to work for me if they've been jumping around their entire career? And it shows when they go to apply for a job. And so I like Smart Recruiters. Now, let me give you a helpful hint. In today's society, if it takes more than, say, 5 to 10 minutes for an applicant to apply, they will jump ship. And so this link, this little tiny URL that Smart Recruiters gives you, they upload their resume, they email or upload their resume, and they are done, right? Easy peasy, takes less than 5 minutes. And that's another thing that will help you get some traction. What I've seen in some small businesses, trying to track my time here, but what I've seen in some small businesses is that they can't figure out why it is they can't get anybody to apply, but they have them do like a hard copy application, a background check form, a this form, a that form, and it's almost like they don't know if they're applying for a job or buying a house, right? And so when applicants see that and they see I'm going to have to go through all this to even be considered, they say, forget it, I'm out. And so I want you to look at your hiring process and break it down into chewable bites. Okay, I want you to make it extremely easy for people to apply. And then I want you to maybe do like a phone interview. And then I want you to get them to do like a formal application, written application. Maybe submit the references. I want you to look at your recruitment process, write it out on a whiteboard if you have to. What are all the things that I'm requiring of my candidates, and space it out into chewable bites? Because what happens is that if you try and put it all in one chunk, you will just get pretty much 0 people applying for your job. Does that make sense? Any comments, any questions? So we live in a world, and I hate to say this, but we live in a world where people have a very short attention span, and they don't want to take the time to go through a lengthy application process. So what I like to do is not only that, but if the Department of Labor ever comes knocking, they're going to ask for 2 years worth of applicant records. And if you've been using one-stop shop like Smart Recruiters, all you have to do is run a report, and there you are. You don't have to go like, what I don't want to see you do is go, wait, I have some resumes in my email then I have some resumes in Indeed, and then some other in Monster. Because if you ever get audited, you're going to drive yourself nuts trying to track down all the different places that you've been accepting applications. Paula, I missed your comment went away. It showed for just a second.
Okay, you said something about taking small bites out of the hiring process. Would that apply to all jobs, or are you looking at more the professional or the highly skilled versus uh, the janitorial or the clerical minimum skilled?
Good, very good question. I want it to be as easy as possible for the industry. Now, my understanding is that for truck driving, that you're required to get some detailed information, from the get-go. And that is just an industry standard, and people know and accept that. But what
Mhm.
I don't want you to be collecting any more information than you have to up front. If you're legally required by your industry, like truck driving, for example, if you have to have a background check of their driving record before you can interview them, they accept that as a part of the industry. But don't ask for stuff that's not required of your industry. Does that make sense? Don't just keep piling it on unnecessarily. Good question, Paula, because they're different. Like I've worked with trucking companies, security companies, even school districts. They have to go through a certain process, and that's just the way it is. But I want you to take a look and say, am I requiring more of my applicants than I have to? Because sometimes what it is that people just, I don't want to say, they just want to get everything up front and just do it once and just rip it like a Band-Aid. And the rip it like a Band-Aid approach does not work anymore. Does that make sense? Right?
Mhm.
So don't think I'm just going to dogpile candidates with all these different forms and processes that aren't necessary at the beginning. Okay, so good question, Paula. So here, where do you go post this? So you've got this neat little URL. Where do you go? I do not like paying for Facebook ads. I've not had one client, and I mean not one, have success off of paying for a Facebook ad. And I've not had too many people have success with either Indeed or ZipRecruiter. One client told me that Indeed contacted them and said, well, if you just give us another $1,500, we'll advertise your job and then you'll get traction. And they were like, heck no. And I was like, thank God they said no, because that's just pouring money down the drain. What you need to do is you need to go stealth. Okay, think stealth. Look at Facebook groups where your people hang out, or LinkedIn groups. Okay, so if you're looking, this is an example, if you're looking to hire in a particular region, like a particular subdivision or a particular suburb, then I'll bet you dollars to donuts that there's a community Facebook group for that area. I want you, and I do this myself. What I do is I contact the owners. I say, look, I would like to join this group so I could post a job ad. Is that okay? And they're like, yeah, fine. So I join the group, I post my ad, and I link it back to Smart Recruiters. I give them the small information. Hey, we're hiring, exciting. I sell it. This is exciting opportunity. And then I link it back easy, just one click, and it goes back to Smart Recruiters and they can upload their resume. Done. Where are your people hiding? Are there LinkedIn groups for the people that you want to hire? Right? Do your homework. Are there associations, professional associations for the type of job that you're hiring for? There are professional associations for everything under the sun. Now, if they have a job board, it might cost you, but that targeted stealth recruiting is how you get your best results. Maybe some people, they want to hire people who are fresh out of college. Well, hey, every college has an alumni association. Why not join it and then post there? If you're looking to hire veterans, Texas Workforce is a great way to go. I'll talk at the end about some special tax discounts that you can get for hiring veterans and some other folks. Craigslist, the price has changed. You know, it's not just for serial killers, but I think that they've lowered their cost a little bit in the age of COVID. But you might find either admin people or techie people hiding out on Craigslist. So it might be worth spending $25 or whatever it is now. I think they've lowered the price to just throw it out there. You know what I mean? And what I do is I put the link to my Smart Recruiters ad. I put a little sales pitch about the job, and then I put the link to Smart Recruiters again so that they click on it. They can see the full job description, apply with one click, done. Does that make sense? Right? And so how much does any of this cost? Very, very little. I don't want to see you going out and paying ads on Indeed because I've heard too many clients say it doesn't work and it's just a complete waste of money. If you want to hire somebody like maybe a stay-at-home mom, maybe they like Pinterest. I've actually recommended some companies get on TikTok. TikTok is like so popular right now. If you want to make yourself look like a fun, energetic place to work, then sign up, do like a business account or for your business, and then start posting fun videos of what it's like to work for you and the benefits of coming to work for you. And that's how you start getting traction because it makes it easy. Think about, and this is the number one, probably the hardest thing to do. Think about where your applicants are hiding out. What groups are they in? What associations would they belong to? And then go stealth. Go in there and do your little sales pitch and then and get them going. So I want to tell you that how you catch someone's eye is different. We don't read anymore. And I'm not saying that to be mean. People don't read a whole job description. They just want the bottom line. People want to see pictures. And so if your job ad has a list of job duties, they're going to be snoring. They're going to be taking a nap while they're reading your job description. I want you to go graphic, more picture, fewer words. There's a tool called Canva, and I don't know if any of y'all have heard of this, but can y'all see this? I'm hoping everything on my screen is shareable. If it's not, if y'all can't see the Canva on my, okay, thank you, Brett. Thank you for validating me. I appreciate that. So, but I love this because look at all the information. I like this infograph. And so let me open this up and I'm going to do job ad image. Okay. So here we go. Look at this. What do you see? How are job ads being written now? Let's look at this one. How many words do you see versus a graphic? let's just look through these. Wait, let me go back because I want to find, we're hiring. What do you see here? I mean, looks international, but look, job description, we're hiring. Let me find another one. Hiring extraordinary. How many words do you see versus a picture? And so that's what I want you to do. I want you to create an infographic for your job. And that's what I want you to go out and post on on your social media or on wherever you go. I'm trying to find one that, what about this one? Job wanted, visit us. Right? So if you're going to join a Facebook group that, let's say you want to hire in a particular area, a particular region, then go to Canva, create a really cool infographic for your job. Don't give the job description, just basically, this is what I tell my clients. Your job candidates are your new clients. How do you recruit your clients? Do you give them a long list of details, or do you put together an ad with lots of pictures? And do you say, why don't you? Why come to work for me? Look at this job opportunity. How many of y'all would look at this and go, yay, I want to apply for them? Oh, county manager, Pakistan, thanks, but no thanks, right? And so what I want you to do is I want you to think about why someone would want to come to work for you. What do you have to offer? Hiring, join a winning team, customer services. This is the requirements. If you've got a hiring bonus, put that on there. We want you. This almost looks like that scary with that Pennywise. Don't post this one, okay? I want you to serve McDonald's. So this is a bad example. This, scary. So this is and a monkey. Okay, so this is what not to do. All right. So I want you to think through. Now I got to back out of this. I want you to think through from the employee's angle. Why? Why do they want to come to work for you? I want you to create a graphic that points back to Smart Recruiters or whatever you're using. And then I want you to go out there and post stealth. Okay, find out where they're hiding and then go post. And then they'll go, man, this is a cool company, right? Just the fact that, look at this, this is a square. How easy would this be to fit into a Facebook ad? Am I beating a horse into the ground, Paula? Shake your head, yes, if I am. I
was just thinking, employers have to start thinking outside the box now. They can't do what they've always done.
Exactly. And that's why I say treat your employee like your new client. When you think about going after a client, you tell them why do business with me? And when you're talking to an employer, why do you want to come work for me from their angle? Find out what's important to them. Does that make sense? So I'm saying all this to say that how you recruit has totally changed. It has to be graphic, eye-catching. Canva's a source that you can use to do that, and then go stealth with your job ad and make it easy. If you already have employees, studies have shown that current employees are the #1 source of good applicants. So create a referral bonus program. I mean, think about It turnover cost an average of $5,000 per person. And there's some people that are like, yeah, but I don't want to pay a referral bonus. How much money are you losing by not being able to hire and serve your clients, right? So don't be penny wise and pound foolish. Offer a good referral bonus to your current employees and get them excited. All right, so are y'all still with me? Anybody sleeping? I think I saw Rob Carlson joining. He may be sleeping. Hi, Rob. So here's the deal, is that once you think you've found the right person, I want you to create questions. And I want you to create two types of questions, behavioral and situational. Behavioral is, give me an example of a time when. Situation is how would you respond if? Let me give you an example. This is my favorite question. Think of a time when you've disagreed with a decision that your supervisor made. Tell me what that decision was and tell me how you handled it. If someone says that they've never disagreed with the supervisor decision, they're lying. Right? And I love that because I want to know how well they get along, how well they how well they are going to follow the supervisor's lead. Here's another one I like to answer. Think of a time when you've had a conflict with a coworker. What was the conflict and how did you resolve it? Right? Those are real life questions. You know, my favorite questions when I first start talking to somebody, I do a phone interview and I just think of like maybe 3 simple questions. And my favorite question is, how much money do you want? Right? If somebody wants $20 an hour and I'm paying 15, they're already off my list. I don't have to waste any more time. Does that make sense? Situational. How would you respond if you were dealing with a belligerent customer? What would you do? So think of real life examples that would happen on the job and then use that to create your questions. The question I don't want to see is, what are your top strengths and your weaknesses? Oh my God, that is so 80s. I hate it. So my top strengths and weaknesses, just the 80s are calling and they want their interviews back, right? Or I used to work with a guy and he would say, I want to know if you want to work or if you just want a job. Well, everybody knows what he's asking. Like, do you come in here and be a hard worker? So everybody knew how to answer that question, right? And so if you ask questions that people already know how to answer, you're not going to get down to the truth of who they are. But if you think of real life situations that would happen on your job and then create questions around that, then you're going to start getting under the truth of who that person really is. Okay. So the way that I usually start out is doing going through Smart Recruiters, rating them, and then calling my top candidates and asking them 3 or 4 questions. And like I said, number 1 question is, well, at the end I asked, how much money do you want to make? I asked, why do you want to work here? What attracted you to this job? You know, what kind of experience do you have? I asked maybe 3 or 4 deal breaker questions, things that are really important to me to know if they're going to proceed. I don't want to call them into my office or do a Zoom call and spend an hour talking to somebody that I already know is overpriced. Does that make sense? And so, so when I get down to so I usually do a phone interview, then I do like an interview where I spend like 30, 45 minutes asking them behavioral or situational questions. But then when I get down to my final candidates, my top 2, 3 candidates, what I do is I bring in a panel. And even if you're a small business or you're a solopreneur, you know someone. You have a colleague, you've got maybe maybe you've got a friend. I know someone who had a friend who brought her in to help out with the panel interview. And you do a panel interview for the top 2 or 3 candidates, and then you compare notes afterwards. And other people will see things that you miss. And so that's the reason why when it comes down to the final interview, I personally, I prefer doing a panel interview. Like I said, I don't know, that saying, 2 heads are better than one. Have y'all heard that saying? And so bring somebody in. Even I don't know if business advisors would be allowed to be on an interview panel, maybe not. But somebody that you know and trust, maybe somebody that's related to your business. If you already have employees, bring in another employee or manager and get them to be on the panel, and then make a cohesive decision from there. So are y'all awake? Still with me? Let's move on to the next step. That's the offer part. So I want to tell you that the law provides a safe harbor. If you offer a conditional offer of employment before you start running background checks and physicals and drug tests, the law provides you a safe harbor. And so you really want to be able to make a conditional offer of employment, let them know we're making you an offer of employment, but we're going to run these other checks. And I put that in the offer letter. If I'm going to run a criminal background check or physical or drug test, I put that in the offer letter, and I say I reserve the right to do these checks. And if anything comes back weird, then I can cancel the offer. I can get out of it. I'll give you an example. One time, we made a conditional offer to an accountant, and we ran her credit report because, hey, she's an accountant. She's going to be handling the money, right? She owed everybody and their uncle. Oh my God, it was the worst credit report I've ever seen. Ugh. And word to the wise, if you're hiring an accountant or somebody that's dealing with money, run their credit report. You don't run a credit report on your janitor or somebody that's not dealing with money. But if you're hiring an accountant, run a credit report. Anyways, we had to back out the offer, and we told her, look, this is what we found and this is why. And she understood, and she went on her merry way. But we made a conditional offer before, ran all the background checks that we needed, credit reports, whatever. And then we were able to legally revoke that offer without getting into hot water, because the law provides a safe harbor for that. What you don't want to do is, when you're doing interviews, you don't want to talk about any promises of continued employment. It's easy as a small business to go in and say, you know what, if things go the way I think that we're going to go, this time next year, we're going to be rolling in money, and you're going to be the vice president of operations, and it's going to be amazing. And you try and use that as a selling point, but that comes across more like a promise of future employment. And remember, we are an at-will state, so we don't want to do anything that makes it look like we're offering employment into the future. It's real easy to put something in an email or tell somebody you're looking to the future and say it's going to be amazing. Don't do it, okay? If you do need to make an offer, like for a salaried person, I say in the offer letters, put what the word annualized, and let me explain this. Instead of telling somebody, look, I'm going to hire you for $12,000 a year, you tell them, I'm going to hire you for $1,000 a month, which is annualized at $12,000. And the reason why is that, and I put the case here, the courts have said that if you tell someone, look, I'm going to pay you $12,000 a year, and you let them go halfway through the year, you owe them the other half. Does that make sense? So if you're offering a salaried person a job, tell them what they're going to make by pay period, and then say what that annualizes out to in order to protect yourself from looking like you're making a continued offer of an employment contract with them. Does that make sense? I saw a question, but it went away. Brett, did you ask a question?
No, it wasn't me. There was another question that said, what are your thoughts about an employment contract?
I like employment contracts if you do it right and you know that you're going to be, you know that you're going to want to keep someone around. But other than that, I'm anti-contract. I'm going to tell you that most employment contracts that make sense are people who are executives. If you're hiring a CEO, you're going to have an employment contract. But if you're hiring an accountant, no way. Hiring a regular employee, no way. Middle management, no way, right? Because that agreement goes against your at-will status because you're creating a contract with this person. Does that make sense? Thank you, Brett. So I'm an anti-agreement type of person for that reason, because it's too easy. And I've had clients where people take their agreement and they file a claim with Texas Payday, and they say, you owe me the other part of this contract because this was an agreement between us. And so the threat is real. And so if in doubt, don't do an agreement. And if you do an agreement, like say you're hiring a CEO or COO or something like that, have your lawyer look it over before you get any signatures. Okay, because you are literally committing yourself into the future. If you need to reject, let's say you found the person, now you want to try, you need to kind of reject the other people. You really don't owe them a response unless you have interviewed them. And if you use something like Smart Recruiters, it'll tell them, look, you can send out a mass email that says we've found what we're looking for, right? But what I don't want you to do, and it's very tempting, is to start trying to be like a personal career coach to people. And you tell them, look, I really liked you, but your resume had 2 misspellings. That's their problem, not yours, right? You don't need to tell them what they did wrong. Some people will go back and say, will you tell me what I did wrong in the interview? And your answer is going to be no. We found the person who we felt was like the best fit. So don't be lulled into trying to be a personal coach to people. Tell them what they did wrong. Tell them how they answered the questions wrong. That's their business, not yours. Your job is to hire the best person and then get on with your business. Am I right or am I right? I think I'm right. Could be right. Okay, so if you do run background checks, you are required to provide Fair Credit Reporting Act rights. You can download a PDF off the internet, but it sounds weird because it says Fair Credit Reporting Act, so it sounds like a credit report, right? It sounds like if you're going to be running somebody's credit report, you need to provide this, their rights. But this applies to background checks as well. So if you're running background checks, you need to provide their Fair Credit Reporting Act rights up front, right? Let them know we're running your background check. You probably need to get them to sign some information, right? Agreeing to the background check and getting their date of birth and other information. At the same time, provide them their Fair Credit Reporting Act rights and you're done. Check, done. If you use an agency to run background checks and maybe you find something horrible and you need to revoke the offer, then let them handle it, right? If you're using a third party, let them handle it. One time, I was hiring twins, trying to, right? And the only difference between these two twins was the spelling of their middle name. I swear to you, it was so close, right? But one of them came back with a stellar background check, and the other one looked like that he got into a bar fight every other week. And Mr. Barfight was like, it's not me, it's my brother, it's him, right? Well, we had to make sure, number one, that we had the right person, but we had to revoke Mr. Barfight's credit report because we didn't need that in the workplace. It represented a tendency towards violence, let's just say that. So we actually could make an offer to one twin, the good twin, and the evil twin. We had to revoke the offer. And so you do sometimes have to revoke an offer. At that point, you find that you give them their Fair Credit Reporting Act rights and you say, this is what we found. If it's an error, feel free to fix it and then come back to us. But at this point, we're not in a position to be able to hire you, that's especially true just depending on your job. If you're hiring someone, let's say a custodian, and they have got a domestic dispute from 5 years ago, who cares? You could hire them anyway, right? But if you're hiring a CFO to run your business and you find that they have in the past embezzled money, that's a deal breaker. And by the way, several years ago, there was a church that did just that. They hired a guy who they knew had embezzled money from another church. He confessed. He said he had changed his ways. He went to work as a CFO for the new church, embezzled millions of dollars from the new church, and then passed away of cancer. So I'm saying all this to say that when you're running background checks, make sure that what you find is job related. Somebody that's embezzled money is very related to an accounting position or somebody that's going to be handling money. But it's not so much to maybe somebody who's a janitor or something like that. So keep that in mind. And so making sure we're doing good on time. If you need to drug test, and I kind of really recommend drug testing, I am pro 10 panel. You see here the DOT, which is the Department of Transportation, they only require a 5 panel. But I think it's worth spending extra money to do the 10 panel because the 10 panel is more likely to catch prescription abuse like oxycodone. Have y'all heard of that? Right? That there are a lot of people who are, addicted to oxycodone. So I think, and some other barbiturates, but I think the 10 panel is worth it because I want to know if somebody's doing oxycodone, abusing oxycodone as much as marijuana, probably more, right? If they smoke marijuana, I'm probably going to be like, peace out. But if they're addicted to oxycodone, I'm going to take a second look. Does that make sense? So spend a little money, opt for the 10 panel if you can. So let's talk about reporting. Am I going too fast, too slow? Paula?
No, you're good.
Okay, good. Because I'm throwing out a lot of information, but the reason why is because I know that you're going to put this up on your website so that people can go straight to it, and all the links are here. Okay, so it's a lot of information, but you can go back to it very easily. The main thing is in Texas, when you hire an employee, you have 20 days to report them to the Attorney General. Your 99% of payroll systems will do this for you, but some employers do their own taxes, or they use the cheap version of their payroll provider, and it's not getting done. So I suggest that you spend a little more money so that your payroll portal will take care of this for you. It's for child support. It's required for all Texas employers, and it is a pain to do it yourself. So just make sure your payroll system does new hire reporting for you. If you have over 50 employees, you are required to do what's called an EEO-1. If you're a federal contractor, you have to do if that's 100. If you are a federal contractor with more than 50 employees, then you're probably required to do an affirmative action plan. So just keep that in mind based upon who you do business with. Some tax incentives that you can go after are WOTC. Remember I talked about that with TWC, you can narrow your results to hiring veterans. If you hire veterans, people with disabilities, or people who have been on SNAP, which is, I think it's used to be called food stamps, but SNAP recipients, then you could qualify for what's called WOTC, Worker Opportunity Tax Credit. So if you are hiring these people, let's say, let's give a real life example. Let's say that you're hiring a lot of custodians, and a lot of those custodians have been on SNAP. Why not have them do some paperwork during their new hire orientation and submit it in and see if you can get a tax credit? Where does that hurt? Does that make sense? Takes a little extra paperwork, but it might pay big dividends in terms of tax credit. Another thing that you might qualify for is subsidized employment. The state of Texas will help subsidize you hiring people in jobs that are hard to fill. And I think some of them are like LVNs. It's not all jobs, but they'll have a list of different jobs. There was one friend of mine who had an electric company, and they hired someone to be their accountant. They taught them QuickBooks, payroll, and the state subsidized 90% of their training. So for several months, they were able to get this person's wages subsidized through the state. So look at your local workforce centers and see if you would qualify for any of these tax credits. The state also provides subsidies for training for small businesses and for large businesses. So if you do a lot of training, or let's say that you're a roofing company and that you need to do a lot of OSHA training, look into this Skills for Small Business, because they offer OSHA training for free, right? And so again, my favorite word is free. So take a look at what kind of tax incentives or subsidies might be available to you as a small business. Okay, so let's talk about pitfalls. We're getting close to the end. So, so let's talk about the pitfalls of small business. A lot of small businesses are terrified of getting sued for discrimination, but Title VII begins at 15 employees. So if you have 5 employees, Title VII doesn't even apply to you. What does it cover? Race, color, religion, sex, national origin. I'm not encouraging you to discriminate. I'm just telling you, age discrimination begins at 20 employees. The ADA, 15. Okay, and maybe you have other states that you operate in that have different rules about this, but a lot of small businesses that have like 5 to 10 employees are utterly terrified of getting sued for discrimination when they're not necessarily big enough to be subject to these laws in the first place. So my point is, these are not your common pitfalls for small business. Okay, so what is and I will talk about this in the next session, which is called hiring smart. The biggest pitfalls that small businesses run into is hiring contractors when they should be employees. I'm going to talk about the legalities of that later because that's a little bit outside the scope of what we have time right now. But tune in, I think it's March 9th. I will talk all about that, okay? But your best defense when it comes to doing interviews and trying to make sure that you're doing things right is the defense, I didn't know. Because you didn't ask the question, right? I can tell you in the 80s when I went to interview for jobs, I got asked, do you plan to have children? That is like so highly illegal, it's ridiculous, right? I don't think anybody asks that question anymore, but if they did, it's illegal. So don't ask it. And so what you need to know is what questions to ask and what questions to don't ask. There's questions that are perfectly legal, but if you're asking illegal questions, the law assumes that you're asking for a reason. And that reason is discrimination. So that's what gets you in hot water. So your best defense is to just not ask those questions that could get you in hot water. If you have affirmative action plans, which you have to be at least 50 employees, then handle those questionnaires with care. Because the affirmative action requires you to ask questions about what someone's race is, sometimes their age and all these things. And managers will go look them up and go, oh, I don't want to hire them, they're too old, right? That's not the purpose, right? So you keep those. If you ask questions like that, like let's say, Polly, you said you have to ask certain questions of truck drivers. You better be careful about how you handle that information, because you don't want somebody to come back and say, oh, well, you didn't hire me because I was too old, because I've seen it happen. I'll give you an example. What can you do? Where have you worked? What did you do? What's your highest level of education? Have you been convicted? You cannot ask, have you been arrested? Just convicted. Can you perform the essential functions of the job? You can do testing as long as you do it consistently across the board, and that you are fair and consistent with everyone about who you hire and where your cutoff scores are. What you don't want to ask is say, oh, I see you limping. Is that an old football injury? Right? When did you graduate high school? Right? What kind of last name is that? Is that Irish, Jamaican? It's, Nordic, are you Viking? Are you gonna kill me? Right? That's not the right question, okay? So where do you go to church? Do you plan to have children? Have you ever filed workers' comp? And hey, what are your retirement plans? You might as well just ask how old you are if you're going to say that, right? And so those are questions that are going to get you into hot water. So just forget it. Don't ask it. So, oh, Brett, listen, let me tell you something. I have such a pet peeve about these kinds of questions. There are way too many people who ask these questions. And so one time I actually got really mad and I reported somebody. I hate to say that, but I reported them because they were asking all kinds of illegal questions. This is 2022. Get over it. Peace out, right? Thank you, Brett. Thanks for the support.
A question about that, if I could, real quick. It seems
Sure.
like you're about to comment on it there and you needed a drink anyway. I'd give you a moment. Sorry. When you go to these websites now, because everything is so automated, how in the world are you supposed to get to the next screen when it keeps sending you back to answer when you graduated college or when you graduated high school?
You know what I would do is, and what most people would do is just not apply for that company, because what are they going to be like to work for? If they're already asking illegal questions, what are they going to do once you get the job? Right? What you can do is you could contact the HR department and let them know about their system, because sometimes what happens is that the IT department will set up the system, but they don't know what's legal or what's not. And so you call the HR department and you tell the HR department, look, they're not letting me move on until I answer this illegal question. And then they'll get it taken care of. That's what I would do. I would report them, because they need to be reported. They need to know what they're doing. They may not have any idea. So practice document retention on your applications. You keep them for 2 years. The Department of Labor goes back 2 years. Don't make notes on your application, right? If you're sitting down and you're taking interview notes on their application or their resume, and you're like, this guy looks way too old for this job, that can be a subpoenable document, right? So just make your own notes or your own post-it notes or whatever somewhere else, but don't write on a subpoenable document. Don't conduct background checks before the offer. Don't get the DD-214. I'm going to give you a story. This is one of my favorite stories. So what happened is we were hiring for somebody for a warehouse, and the person attached their DD-214. Any guesses on what's on the DD-214? It's your discharge paperwork from the military. Guesses, your date of birth. So he attached his date of birth to his application, his DD-214 to his application, which we did not want and did not ask for, and then went and filed an age discrimination complaint with the EEOC. We had to backtrack and submit to the EEOC every single person who had applied for that job, exactly what we did with each one, who we interviewed, who we hired, the whole 9 thing, just because this one ding dong guy submitted his DD-214. So when I accept an application and somebody wants to start submitting extra stuff, I say keep it. Don't need it, don't want it, keep it. You can always get it after you make an offer. That's not a problem. But at the time of the interview, I don't need that extra paperwork. I got enough already, right? Be careful with online searches. First thing you want to do is Google someone, but it's a little tricky. If you were to find out like they belong to a certain church or a certain organization, it might come back to bite you later. So just be a little bit careful about that, with the online searches. So retention, we're getting close here. So the reason why people will work for you has to do more than just money. How do they feel working for you? How do you treat them? Do they feel like family? Do they have job security? Do they have benefits? Do they feel respected? People, and especially like I've seen Gen Xers take like a $5,000 cut in pay to go to work for a job where they can go see their kids' soccer games. Have y'all seen that? That trend is called work-life balance, right? And if you are able to offer work-life balance, people will come to work for you and stay and work for you because you treat them well. It's not just about money, right? People think, well, I'll just give them more money. Studies have shown that wages do not make people more satisfied with their jobs, right? If you underpay them, they're going to be a little ticked off. But if you're paying a fair wage, you don't have to pay like corporate America, but you have to treat your employees well. You have to make them feel like that they care. You have to be able to, If they want to go see their kid's soccer game, let them go see the kid's soccer game. You know what I mean? That's what will keep them around. You can always track your turnover rate if you want to. The average cost for turnover is $5,000. So it's to your advantage to treat your employees well and keep them around, because backfilling them is extremely expensive, okay? You can use a lot of different retention tools. Like, I did a satisfaction survey once where I asked the employees, do you prefer Nintendo or Xbox? That's like the world's most ridiculous question in my opinion, but it's what mattered to them, right? And so do an employee satisfaction survey. I use a free tool called Google Forms. Have y'all heard of that? Google Forms, you can set up your questionnaire, send out a link, and get your employees to answer it and find out what they care about, right? And then you know, okay, this is how I retain them. So if you haven't done a satisfaction survey yet, do it. It's free. Takes a little time, but it's free. You could go to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. You can look at the wages. Go to ONET, look at the wages. Frequent communication. I cannot tell you how many times employees say, you know what, the CEO, the head of the company, stopped by my office and asked me how I was doing. And that made me feel so good, right? I don't know how many times I've talked to other people and they say, the CEO of the company hides out in his or her office. I never see them. They never talk to me. If I pass them in the hallway, they wouldn't know my name. That's a perfect way to lose a good employee. Does that make sense? So if you've got managers that are not personable with your employees, they don't know their name, they don't ever say hi, they pass in the hallway and they don't even acknowledge their presence, you're fixing to lose a good employee. Am I right or am I right? All right, so look at your hiring practices, look at where you're sourcing your candidates and change it. If one isn't working, try it for about a month. If it doesn't work, change it. Okay? Texas conference, I put the website. The other website I love really well, and I'm going to go over this. I'm running out of so much time, but I'm trying to cover this. This is my favoriteest website. TWC put together a free website for businesses that gives you free policies. What's my favorite word? Free, right? So if you need to make deductions from your employees' checks, or let's say that you've got employees who you give them tools to do their jobs, they leave the company, but they don't give the tools back, you try and withhold their check, you will lose. They will file a claim with TWC and you will have to give them the check and they will keep your tools, right? Unless you have what's called a deduction authorization. And so I'm trying to find it on here. Deductions from pay. Here we go. Cut and paste, right? They say the serious form of flattery is imitation. What you do is you can just take and pop this into Word, done. And that protects you. So if they take off with your stuff, you have a reason, you've got their signature to withhold. Does that make sense? I don't know. Paula, you look confused. Are you still with me? Is it TMI?
Oh, I'm not confused. I'm not confused.
If you guys think of examples, let me know. I also like to go to my favorite one is this A to Z of personnel policies. Because look at this, copy and paste, drug-free workplace, job offer letter template. And this is published by the state. Vacation and sick leave policy kind of explains that. Attendance policy. My favorite attendance policy is what's called no fault. And so you might be able to take a look at this. They've got like 3 or 4 different policies that you can steal. Haha. Is that the right word? That you can borrow. Authorization for background check. Look at all this. Social media policy. Right? So take a look and say, okay, as a small business, you don't need to have a whole handbook. You may need to just have a couple of different policies. Harassment and disrespect, everyone should have that policy, right? Copy and paste. So if you're too small to have a whole handbook, come over here to this website and copy the policies that you think are going to be most relevant. You can go to this A to Z, or you can go to this index and start looking for them. I love one called company property because it's so common for people to steal or for take off with your stuff, or not compete. Maybe they go to work for a competitor or something. You need to have a confidentiality policy. So why reinvent the wheel when you can go to a website and it's free? Because what's our favorite word as small businesses? Free. Y'all should know that. Yeah, come on now. You get free, but it's still good. Okay, so let's wrap this up. Thank you, Brett. Finally, free. So this is my contact information. You're welcome to contact me, but even more importantly, I'm giving you the contact information for your small business center, because all this information that I'm providing you, I'm giving them, and they're posting on their website, so you can get it for what? Free, right? So here's the, I don't know if you can see my cursor. This is where this is the link. Go there, sign up, get an advisor. I have an advisor. I love her. She literally has saved my business. And so get an advisor and take a look at some of these handouts as well. I'm going to try one last one to see if y'all can see it. Can y'all see this? Interviews, do's and don'ts. Let me see, maybe I could make it bigger. I don't know how to make it bigger. So let me give you an example. Physical limitations or disabilities. Do ask whether they have the ability to perform the duties of the job. Don't ask for the nature or severity of their illness or their condition if they filed workers' comp, right? What else? Applicants' residence. You really don't want to find out their birthplace, their previous address, or any of that stuff unless you've already made an offer and you need to do a background check. But to ask those questions during an interview is a big no-no. And so this is a handout that I'm going to provide to your small business center as well, with the I'm going to even provide the really bad job description, but I'll note it that it's a bad example so you can see it. And don't do it. Don't make it look like the bad one. Make it look sharp. And then that way you can go to, let me get out of this. That way you can go to the website and for your small business center, which is here. I'm going to put it back up and get whatever you need, whether it's the slide deck or the handouts or whatever. My next session, I'm going to have so many handouts. I'm going to probably have 6 handouts. So it's called Hiring Smart. and I'm going to give you some samples that you could work with. So don't miss it. Sign up for it. If you miss it, then you can, Paul, I believe this is all recorded, so they can go to the website, watch it, and then talk to your advisor and get the handouts so that you can go about hiring and managing in an effective way as a small business. And the thing is that you can be just as agile or even more as a small business than you can as a large business. You've got the same tools, you just have to know how to use them. So with that, I think we've almost gone over time. I don't know if we have any questions. I tried to talk fast, but not too fast.
Well, I have just a couple. I don't see any in the chat, but if you do have any questions, unmute yourself and ask those questions. You mentioned earlier, you asked somebody how much, what is the salary that they're looking for, and they gave you a number, and you already knew that that was above what you were going to be able to offer. So they were automatically kind of taken off the list.
Yes, and I do that during, I'm sorry?
What is the right answer to that question?
Okay, so I usually do that during the phone interview where I ask just 3 or 4 questions because that's a deal breaker. I ask those deal breaker questions in my phone interview. What I do is I educate myself and I find out what's the average rate of pay for the job that I'm hiring for. And if the average rate of pay for my job is 15 and somebody wants 20, then I'm not going to call them back for an in-person interview or a Zoom interview. And I tell people that. When I'm doing the phone interviews, I tell people that I'll tell them the management team will review the candidates and their interviews, and if they decide that they want to continue with the interviews, then you'll hear from us. Basically, no news is bad news is what I'm saying, but I'm saying it nicely. So I tell them, look, if the management team decides that they want to call you back in for an interview, then you'll hear from us within the next couple of weeks.
Okay, so in other words, they would still be considered because they may have some sort of adders on their resume that maybe there is.
They better have a lot. Yeah, they better have a lot because some people are still receiving some government benefits, and they're elevating their asking price way too high. I know one client of mine, they're a caterer, and they were very busy during Christmas, and they had to pay their servers $20 an hour. They said, we either have to pay them $20 an hour or we're just going to have to turn down business, right? And so they had to make that business decision about how much to pay. You need to do that same thing. You need to say, okay, what are my competitors offering? Basically, you can try and keep up with your competitors.
Gotcha. Okay. Cover letter required, not required?
Not required. Cover letter is generally going to not required, not for small business.
Okay, gotcha. Let's see, what is the answer to the, oh, never mind. That was, so do you have any closing remarks?
My closing remarks is that recruiting today for your candidates looks more like how you used to recruit for your clients. So you used to think from your client's perspective and you designed everything to appeal to them according to what your clients would like. You've got to now do that for your employees, and that's hard. You've got to switch your little thinking cap and go, what matters to my potential candidates? And it's more than just money. So
Mhm.
think through the eyes of your candidates like you already think through the eyes of your clients, and then you'll start having some success. And that's it. That's the words of wisdom.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. And Brett made a remark to say thank you for your candid advice on this topic, because sometimes we don't get that candid advice.
Yeah, I'm trying to keep it real, because if I don't, you may not have success. So that's the reason why I try and keep it as real as possible.
Okay, thanks so much. Brett, can you share your screen? I've just lost everything, I think, right there.
It's that
I
ice
do want to
storm.
remind I do want to remind everyone that you'll be getting a resume, and please respond to that resume. We would really love to hear what you're thinking about our program and how we can best improve it, and get those webinars and that information out to you that really matters. Just want to go.
I read those evaluations, by the way, Paula. So I want to know the truth about how these and how I could change it to make it better. So
Okay.
I really
All right.
appreciate evaluations a lot.
Okay, wonderful to know. Thank you. Thank you very much. I just want to share some upcoming webinars that we have here. On Monday, more accounting information, how to proof your business. Go back to part 3 of how to write a top-notch website. Then Rebecca Schultz is going to bring us business plan basics. We've been wanting this type of information for quite some time. I can't wait to see that. Stacy Kildall will be back with more QuickBooks Online on the 3rd, and then on the 8th as well. And again, on the 8th, Rebecca will be back for financial bookkeeping and for your business funding needs. If you want, you can use the QR code in the upper right-hand corner, and that will take you right to our Eventbrite page where you can register for those webinars. Or you can go to our website, sbdc.nctc.edu. You can register for the webinars. You can also get information on some business resources that we have out there. You can get contact information for our organization. You can schedule an appointment. And there's a lot out there that we would love to be able to help. We would love to help you with. As I mentioned earlier, we are grant funded, and I would like to say thank you to a few organizations: the Small Business Administration, the State of Texas, North Texas SBDC Regional Office in Dallas, and the North Central Texas College, our host institution. Thank you all for joining us today. We look forward to seeing you next week on Monday for Audit Proof Business. Thank you, and feel free to contact us if there's any way that we can help you. And we're going to go ahead and end the webinar this afternoon. Thanks so much.